Welding is by far one of the most important things a person can learn regardless of the career path that they decide to take in life. So this presentation will be based on first-hand interviews with experienced welders and my own experience as well. First off, there are three main types of welding that are extremely important in the welding field, I guess you could say, engineering field, almost any. Um, the first one is MIG welding, the second is TIG welding, and the last one is arc welding. So MIG welding, it's by far the easiest to learn. It requires hand-eye coordination, but not as much as the other ones. MIG welding is actually, it uses positive and negative currents to melt the filler material into the metal that you are melting and or joining together. The entire mechanism requires a wire feeder, a welder obviously, a welding gun, and gas regulator, and of course the gas needed to weld and shield the wire feeder as it's going into the metal. You also need a ground clamp, which comes with the welder, because without the ground clamp, the polarity, the negative and positive polarity, will not work. The ground clamp is actually used as a ground, as a, I guess you could say, a positive charge given to the metal that you are working with. You simply clamp it on, and the wire feeder passes through a system that makes it into a negative charge. So as it's coming out of the MIG gun, it's actually coming out negative, and that positive and negative clash is making the spark, which causes the heat, and it begins to melt the metal, and the two metals begin to join. TIG welding, on the other hand, it uses a TIG torch and uses a filler rod, a manual filler rod, as opposed to a wire feeder previously discussed in MIG welding. So the TIG torch uses flames, intense heat, pinpointed onto a single point to melt the metal, as opposed to using the polarity, positive and negative charges. So the TIG torch also has a gas regulator. So the gas regulator basically causes a small shield restraining it from oxygen, because if oxygen were to get into the torch or into the filler, it would cause abrupt bubbles and little gas sockets that won't make the weld as strong as it should be. So without that shield, we would have terrible welds and breaking pieces of metal all the time. So the shield, as you are welding with the TIG torch, as you can see in the picture in the PowerPoint, uses a little needle to expel the flame, and as you are melting the fire, you are filling it in with filler rod, and obviously there are different types of filler rods, different varieties, thickness, wideness, length, but that's much more in depth. We are simply covering the basics. As I was saying, the filler rod goes into the melting puddle, which, as it's cooling as you're passing by with the TIG torch, begins to harden, and the filler rod begins to join the two metals together. The filler rod is usually used for aluminum welds, not so much copper or other base metals, but aluminum metal and stainless steel is what TIG welding is usually used for. And the final welding that I will be covering is arc welding. Arc welding is not, it's very similar to MIG welding, but without the gun, without the MIG gun. Arc is all hand-eye coordination and uses the dexterity of your hand and how well you can aim it into the position that you want it to. So it uses polarity, same as MIG, and the item that you are welding on uses positive energy, The metal that you are working on has a positive charge, while the clamp that you are holding has a negative charge. The filler rod actually is what carries the negative charge. So the clamp that you are holding is carrying the negative charge down through the filler rod, and as it's making contact into the metal, it's causing that reaction and causing the two metals to join. As you can see in the picture to the right, the welder is actually holding a clamp with one hand and is focusing all his attention on that one spot onto the pipe that he has to weld. The safety procedures in welding is actually a very important aspect to this field, because if not, you can get severely injured, because the fumes that these welding techniques expel can cause permanent and severe damage to one's body. I actually have a few safety materials that I own. So this is a welding helmet. It's a standard welding helmet, as you can see on the inside. It has a self-regulating sensor right here at the bottom, and when you make contact, when you use the fire, when you make that positive or negative charge, it causes a really bright light to expel from the contact point, and it's unbearable to look. It's almost as if you're staring straight at the sun. So this makes it super easy to weld and dims everything around the light and gives you a main focus point, so wherever you're looking, wherever you're welding is exactly where you can see, and it's all pitch black except for that one dot. And I will put this on to show exactly what it looks like to be a welder. These are standard welding gloves. These are not the best out there on the field, but they will do the job. They're mostly goat skin. It's almost as if it's leather. And they're very thick, so in case any sparks decide to jump at you, it will be covered by this. So you put these on, and these are lifesavers. And this is also a very standard basic welding jacket. This part is 100% cotton, and it's covered with a wax so that it's a very thick material so that the sparks won't cause you to go up in flame. And this is pig skin, pig leather, so any fumes, any sparks that decide to jump at you again will be covered by this material. So any welder that I spoke to, the three interviewers or interviewees that I interviewed, said that this is by far one of the most important aspects in welding, because safety is main priority in any company that is accustomed to welding. So with everything on, it looks like this, and down. So that is the very basics of welding. I have much experience with this, as I used to work in a welding company welding safes. And in that experience, I have fallen in love with this career path, and I have decided to pursue it in my future years to come. And that is it. Thank you.